Picture two apartments on the same block, same city, same rent range. Apartment number 1 belongs to someone earning about $95,000 a year. You walk in and see a 75-inch TV mounted like a trophy, a $4,000 leather sectional placed carefully in the center of the room, a kitchen filled with gadgets that once promised efficiency but now mostly collect dust, closets packed tightly with clothes worn only a handful of times, shoes still pristine, and a spare bedroom that slowly transformed into a storage unit with a window. Nothing here screams irresponsibility. They don't gamble, they don't have dramatic addictions, they aren't reckless with flashy splurges every weekend. What happened instead was quieter. Over time, they built a lifestyle that consumes everything it's fed. Every raise turned into slightly higher fixed costs. Every upgrade became permanent. When they check their banking app, there's tension. Not disaster, not crisis, but fragility. 2 missed paychecks away from stress. Now walk into apartment number 2. Income, $52,000 a year. The space feels lighter. One good pan, one sharp knife, clothes that match their actual schedule, furniture that serves a purpose without dominating the room. The spare bedroom is empty, not because they can't afford more, but because they chose not to fill it. They have 18 months of expenses saved and invest 20% of each paycheck. Same block, half the income, far more stability. Pause here. If your brain wants to say, they're just more disciplined, maybe. Discipline plays a role, but discipline alone doesn't explain the difference. The difference is margin. And margin is shaped by something most people never calculate. Every possession carries a second cost. The second cost, and why it's invisible. The first cost is obvious, the receipt. The second cost is ownership, space, maintenance, insurance, time, attention, and opportunity. In the United States, housing is already financially heavy. Harvard's Joint Center for Housing Studies reports that roughly half of renters are cost-burdened, spending more than 30% of income on housing. Space is expensive. It's not neutral. When your apartment is larger because it must hold more things, you are not simply paying for shelter. You are paying to store decisions you once made. Maintenance adds another layer. American Home Shield has documented how repair and maintenance costs have risen in recent years. A house does not merely require a mortgage. It requires ongoing funding, unpredictable repairs, rising material costs, and labor inflation. A pool, a larger vehicle, premium appliances, or upgraded furniture all behave like subscriptions over time. Then there is opportunity cost. Bankrate's 2026 data shows that only about 47% of Americans can cover a $1,000 emergency expense from savings. If $1,000 shakes your stability, then every unnecessary purchase is no longer harmless consumption. It becomes a trade against resilience. And this is where psychology quietly enters the conversation. When savings are thin, the brain searches for control. Buying something produces a fast, predictable dopamine response. It feels like relief. It feels like forward motion. It briefly reduces uncertainty, but relief fades, and the payment remains. That isn't weakness. That is neurobiology responding to perceived insecurity, which is why the solution is not harsher discipline. The solution is a clearer filter. The Freedom Trade Meter. Before any non-essential purchase, ask 3 questions. Does this buy usefulness? Does this buy real durable joy? Or does this buy freedom later? If it clearly buys at least one of those, proceed consciously. If it does not, pause for 24 hours. Not to deny yourself, but to recognize what you are trading. Every dollar is a negotiation between present you and future you, and interest magnifies that negotiation. At roughly 19% APR, as reflected in Bankrate's 2026 forecast for credit card rates, carrying revolving debt compounds against you. That is reverse compounding. It doesn't merely delay freedom, it accelerates the distance between you and financial stability each month. The Freedom Trade Meter makes invisible trades visible. It reframes spending as a decision about optionality rather than appearance. Act 2. 3 moves that change your trajectory. Instead of scattered rules, think in terms of structural moves. Move 1. Stop the wait. 2 tools perform most of the heavy lifting: cost per use and the replacement test. Cost per use reveals value honestly. A $300 kitchen gadget used twice costs $150 per use. A $400 jacket worn 200 times costs $2 per wear. This is not about cheap versus expensive. It is about alignment between spending and usage. Often the expensive item used consistently is the better investment, and the cheap impulse purchase is the real drain. The replacement test is equally powerful. Walk through your space and ask, if this disappeared today, would I repurchase it? If the answer is no, the item is consuming space and attention without returning meaningful value. Removing 10 such items does more than declutter your home. It reduces the second cost immediately. Small leaks accumulate silently, and so does margin once leaks are closed. Move 2. Build systems. Systems beat moods. Human behavior follows friction. When spending is frictionless and saving requires effort, spending wins. Introduce friction intentionally. Remove saved credit cards. Delete shopping apps. Apply a 24-hour waiting rule for non-essential purchases. Cancel subscriptions you would not actively rebuy today. Then make saving automatic. Set auto transfers on payday. Open a separate high-yield account labeled Do Not Touch. Treat investing as a fixed expense rather than leftover money. When systems carry the weight, emotions step back. At roughly 19% interest, eliminating a $2,000 revolving credit balance can save hundreds annually. That return is guaranteed and risk-free. Margin expands faster when reverse compounding stops working against you. Move 3. Define enough. Lifestyle creep rarely announces itself. Income increases and expenses rise quietly alongside it. Housing illustrates this clearly. Freddie Mac reported that the average 30-year fixed mortgage rate was approximately 5.98% as of late February 2026. Around 6%, borrowing an additional $100,000 significantly increases lifetime interest obligations. When someone says, "It's only $300 more per month," that translates into $3,600 per year and $36,000 over 10 years, before accounting for repairs, property taxes, insurance adjustments, and furnishing. Sometimes the upgrade is worth it. Sometimes additional space truly enhances daily life. But the math deserves visibility. The Freedom Trade Meter asks whether that additional cost buys consistent joy or quietly reduces flexibility. Optionality often outweighs square footage. Act 3. The 30-60-90-day micro plan. If you are unsure where to begin, follow a structured progression. In the first 30 days, focus on stability. Build a $1,000 buffer. Cancel unnecessary subscriptions. Implement the 24-hour rule. Auto-transfer even modest amounts such as $25 or $50 per paycheck. Sell or remove 10 non-essential items. Crossing the $1,000 threshold changes your stress response. It shifts your baseline from fragile to buffered. Stress declines when unpredictability declines. In the next 60 days, eliminate reverse compounding. If carrying high-interest debt, attack the highest interest balance first. Redirect freed payments into savings. Maintain friction barriers. If you're debt-free, gradually increase automatic savings and expand your emergency fund toward 1 to 3 months of expenses. Remove liabilities that compound against you before pursuing investments that compound for you. By 90 days, build structural resilience. Create two separate buffers, an emergency fund and a repairs fund, acknowledging that maintenance costs rise and disruptions are inevitable. This structure prevents shocks from triggering emotional spending. By month 3, small surprises become inconveniences rather than crises. That emotional downgrade from panic to inconvenience is one of the highest returns available in personal finance. Optionality and the real measure of wealth. Real wealth is not accumulation, it is optionality. Can you leave a draining job? Can you take time off to reset? Can you absorb a $1,000 surprise without panic? When fewer than half of Americans can cover such an expense from savings, margin becomes a genuine competitive advantage. Optionality changes posture. With savings, negotiation power increases, decision-making improves, consumption slows, security reduces impulsive spending more effectively than discipline ever could. The two cycles. There are two reinforcing loops. Cycle A, spend everything, feel unsafe, spend for relief, deepen insecurity. Cycle B, spend intentionally, save consistently, feel safer, crave less, save more. Income influences these cycles, but cycle choice defines them. The first apartment operated inside Cycle A. The second operated inside Cycle B. The quiet difference and closing decision. Look again at the two apartments. The difference was not virtue. It was not intelligence. It was the willingness to see the second cost and trade accordingly. One life optimized for appearance, the other optimized for margin. Margin creates calm. Calm reduces impulsive spending. Reduced spending increases margin. The virtuous cycle reinforces itself. That is not minimalism for its own sake. It is structural freedom. You do not need to change everything overnight. You need one shift. See every purchase as a trade. When you see the trade clearly, unnecessary spending often dissolves naturally. What remains are purchases aligned with usefulness, durable joy, or long-term freedom. That is how you stop possessions from owning you and begin building a life where money amplifies you instead of controlling you. Thanks for watching.